Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and today I have another ranking video for you. This time I am ranking all of the heroes that are in Avengers Infinity War. All in all, I have 25 Avengers to go through on this list. Now, I decided to rank these 25 because I think they all played some sort of role here. They were all introduced, we knew all of these characters heading in, and that's how I came up with my list. For the ranking itself, of course, it's always subjective. However, for my ranking, my criteria basically comes down to: were they useful? Did they actually do anything? Did they accomplish their goals that they were trying to accomplish in the film? Did they add to overall enjoyment of the movie? Did they have good moments? Did they have funny lines? And then, were they a hindrance? Did they actually get in the way of the mission? Did they get in the way of our other heroes, or actually make matters worse? So those were all of the different factors that kind of got jumbled up to help me create this list. Also, big spoiler alert, I will be discussing why I placed the characters where I placed them, and hopefully you have seen the film so you can understand if you agree or disagree with my ranking, but there will be spoilers throughout. I'll be going over a ton of spoilers, so you have been warned, and if you haven't seen the film, just go ahead and click off. You don't want to be spoiled, you don't want to hear play-by-plays, you want to see it happen in real time. So we have a ton of characters to get through. So, without further ado, let's kick things off with number 25. I have Nebula. Nebula ranks in dead last at number 25 because she does do two things right, I think. First, she summons the Guardians through Mantis to Titan. And that's a huge plus. They get to meet up with the Stark crew, and that almost leads to a successful plan thanks to the Guardians. It makes for some fun moments. So, she got that out and got them to go to Titan. Two, she had a pretty sick entrance in which she lands some nice punches and jabs in on Thanos himself. However, she comes in last because she's a huge hindrance. It's her, selfish mission that she goes off on and gets captured off screen. If it weren't for this guilt trip she had already laid on Gamora, and if it weren't for her getting captured trying to accomplish a nearly impossible mission, then maybe we never would have led Thanos straight to the Soul Stone. So it was just a bunch of series of events that led to Gamora telling her about the Soul Stone, her getting captured, thus getting tortured, and planting all that guilt within Gamora that led us here. So she comes in last because really, she's not in it much, and she's far worse for our overall mission than she is good for it. At number 24, I have Cherie. She comes in so low because she really isn't in it much. She gets one funny little fun line and banter with Bruce Banner, and that's about it. She's trying to do good. She's working on a positive mission, but she doesn't accomplish her goal. She's unable to actually complete the task. She has a tiny little bit of a fight sequence in which she goes down pretty quickly, and her role ultimately is tiny. So, couldn't really justify putting her up much higher because she isn't given a whole lot to do. At number 23, I have Drax. The only reason Drax is even up at number 23 is because he had memeable moments. He's now a meme across the internet. He had the one fun little banter about Thor being a pirate angel baby. And then, of course, he had the why is Gamora moment. And everybody else seems to love it a lot more than I do. But we had the whole, staying still moment as well. Otherwise, Drax is literally useless. Can we think of anything else that he actually did in the movie? Because I can't. I don't think he landed any punches. I literally don't think he did anything of use or value in the entire film. The one moment that does stick out in my mind is him being an idiot and just running full force trying to catch Thanos, which ultimately turned out to be a non-factor, but it was just another dumb move that led to unfortunate events unfolding. So his only real contributions are memes and that. So, 23 it was. At number 22, I have Wong. I will say, in his fight scene, Wong had some pretty awesome moments. He really had some powerful effects going on here. He was really doing his thing with Doctor Strange. And he got that awesome moment of doing his magic to slice off the arm of one of the Black Order, which was really cool. But then he literally goes right back in to protect the realm, and we don't see him again. He's in that one little bit, that one scene, and then doesn't bother to help the rest of the film, doesn't bother to do anything the rest of the film. So, yeah, I mean, that sounds like 22 worthy to me. At number 21, I have Star-Lord. Very similar to Drax, if I'm being honest, but worse, actually. The thing is, he has some really funny banter with Thor, so we get some great moments when he first meets him. I also think that his moment in making that decision to kill Gamora was a really good moment. It was really well acted. It was some great development there as a hero for Star-Lord. And I think he does get a hit in on Thanos when they're fighting. His back and forth with Spider-Man was also really fun. So he has more upside than Drax did. That's why he ranked a little bit higher. But ultimately, he also doesn't really contribute much in this film. And his one shining moment is the single most stupid moment from any of our heroes. When he's yelling and screaming in Thanos' face and then punches him and wakes him up seconds before they're able to get that gauntlet off of his hand. Just stupidity. Completely dumb. The most ridiculous moment in the whole film for me. I hated it. I just thought that moment was ridiculous. And it was committed by Star-Lord. I mean, he blew it. He completely blew the mission, couldn't control himself, couldn't handle himself. So he really kind of led straight to this ending, if we're being real. So, yeah, no, Star-Lord, you were definitely a hindrance. Didn't really do much to help. At number 20, I have Heimdall. So clearly Heimdall had, no role. His part was, this big. And he almost had no lines in the film. However, I'm placing Heimdall up at number 20 because he actually does do something of use here. First of all, we get that great moment between he and Thor. He adds a little bit of inspiration to Thor and helps in Thor's development overall, which is nice. He gets the Bifrost to come through, sweep Hulk onto planet Earth, which obviously allows everything else with the Avengers to go into motion. He summoned the last ounce of strength and power he had to be awesome and do some good and use his powers. So that's why Heimdall gets above these other characters that had way more screen time than he did. Plus, I did think it was a touching death for what has been a minor character. At number 19, I have Mantis. So I do find her characterization to be rather unfortunate and horrible. She's just a punching bag. She's right there with Drax, just saying stupid stuff all the time. And she was pretty much useless for the majority of this film. As a Guardian, her role is kind of useless. She's just there, bouncing in the background, or kind of being the second punch in Drax's jokes. The only reason Mantis is all the way up at number 19 is because she held Thanos asleep. She was crucial to their mission, and she did her job. She held him for quite some time, and if it wasn't for her Guardian's teammate there, she would have been part of his very successful, awesome mission. So, kudos to you, girl. You stretched your muscle. You showed your power set. At least you had some use. At least you did something that helped move our mission forward and didn't hinder it. Just had some annoying moments. At number 18, I have Okoye. This actually pains me because I love Okoye. I just love her as a character. And she had some nice moments in this film as well. She actually had a decent amount of screen time. And I loved her little quips. I loved her talking about opening Wakanda for the Olympics and Starbucks. And I also loved her first interaction with Scarlet Witch being like, oh, why was she chilling up there this whole time? Those were great moments. I also think she was cool in the battle. She was a part of that awesome all-female battle going on. But other than that, she didn't do a whole lot. So she definitely helped in that Battle of Wakanda, and she gave us some nice fun moments, but her character wasn't given very much to do, so I couldn't justify putting her any higher than 18. At number 17, I have Groot. So Groot is up to number 17, and actually was debated even going higher based off of one key moment in the film, in which his character has growth, and he comes to a good realization of being selfless and being a hero. And that's when he saves Thor's life. He puts himself in danger, cuts off his own arm so that Thor can live and become powerful. That is the Groot moment of the film for me. Of course, the stuff with the video game is funny. The translations are funny. He sets up that fun Groot elective joke. And then he does get a really awesome death where he just like is able to stab everybody on the field and like slam them when we're in Wakanda. So he has that moment too. But really it is that moment where he saves Thor that elevates him up to number 17. However, he also doesn't have a whole lot of screen time, and his character was kind of one note through the majority of it. So 17 it is. At number 16, I have Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier, aka the White Wolf. So he's gone through a lot of transformations in his time in the MCU. And finally, we get like a well-balanced, seemingly at peace Bucky Barnes. He has a new, awesome Wakandan arm. He also doesn't do much else outside of that. The reason he is up to this point is getting to see that character development finally paying off for Bucky. And then he saves Groot, and he's involved in that awesome scene. He's just like holding him out. It's a really fun, awesome scene. He's useful on the battlefield. And it was just nice to see Bucky get this moment to be a pure hero. At number 15, I have War Machine. So I put him up this high because he was very helpful, actually, in that battle in Wakanda. Him setting off those bombs along the border was genius, and something they really should have been striving to do right off the bat. They should have had some sort of game plan and worked it out a little bit better than they did. But I thought he was very useful. Having that aerial attack was great. And that was the moment that really kind of pushed War Machine this high. Other than that, his characterization was what it usually is, except for the fact that he just kind of changed his position like that. I understand, you get like awakening, you get new information, you understand the other side, but it still seemed like a bit of an abrupt change of heart for him. His usefulness in battle is what bumped him up to number 15 for me. At number 14, I have Falcon. Very similar to War Machine, he proved his usefulness in the big Wakandan battle. Not actually as much as War Machine did, in my opinion. However, he also had the awesome scene in which they all came in to save the day with Vision that worked out very well. He had a couple of funny quips, his little fun one-liners that also worked very well. And I think those two added extra little benefits are what elevated him just barely above War Machine for me. At number 13, I have Black Widow. Really, Black Widow didn't do very much in this film. She's not in it very much, and when she is in it, she didn't really do all that much. And that's what keeps her from moving up into the top 12. But what really bumped her up to number 13 is I thought her fighting in the saving Vision moment was great. I thought she looked fantastic. She is killing it. I love that like vicious stab moment. And then her being the one that kind of initiates saving Wanda out on the battlefields of Wakanda. So she has her usual kind of like sass and bravado. I liked her line about telling Vision to sit his ass down on the table. And that all kind of helps to elevate her to 13. She doesn't do all that much. So it kind of just leaves us here. All the way up at number 12 is Loki. Now I know, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, didn't you knock Star-Lord way earlier and then Drax even earlier than that for hindering the mission? Doesn't Loki really hinder the mission right off the bat? Well, yes. Yes, he does. But Loki showed so much character development and such a growth as a person and as a being within the MCU in his very short scene that it really stuck with me. Yes, he gave up the Tesseract for Thor's life, but that in and of itself was such growth since we saw him fail Thanos in the first Avengers. It actually was a great moment to start off with. And then seeing him calling on the Hulk was really fun, and having him go out still being cunning and still trying his trickery, and then sneaking up to Thanos, I thought was a really great moment. And, I mean, he had, by far to me, the saddest death in the entire film, because it's one that I think is going to stick. One of two, I believe, is going to stick. And again, it gave that motivation to Thor. It helped in Thor's development. But it really just kind of signified an end of an era, as well as a nice conclusion to his character's arc. And it really stood out to me. So he wasn't on screen for all that much, but he delivered everything we come to love and know Loki for, and he got to close out his character really nicely. So he's at number 12. At number 11, I have Rocket Racoon. So Rocket also doesn't do all that much when you look at actual accomplishments throughout the film. He accompanies Thor and helps Thor to really get that star up and running again, and helps Thor get his axe. And he has a lot of fun banter back and forth with Thor, some with Star-Lord on that ship, and that's all really nice. Plus, like I mentioned earlier, he was part of that scene with Bucky where they're back-to-back shooting. I loved his usual Rocket callback to stealing that arm, and it all just worked really well. Why I put Rocket as high as I did is because he had real moments of actual character growth. Something I never saw in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 that I was hoping for, I saw here. Him taking the captain job with Thor was one of the best and most touching moments in the entire film for me, and really showed a new side to not only Thor, but really showed a new side to Rocket. And it was a side I think we really did need to see and experience. So that scene, plus just having fun, and I think Rocket did bring some genuine fun to the film, is why he gets all the way up to number 11. At number 10, I have Vision. So Vision is obviously very important to the story overall. He has an Infinity Stone in his head. So Vision staying alive is key throughout a good portion of this film. Also, he saves Captain America's life. So, he saves another Avengers' life, automatically means he needs to at least be in the top 10. But really what drags Vision down for me, I mean, he's basically on the run this entire film. He's basically being dragged along. He's injured for the whole film. And it's a drag. We don't really get to see Vision at his full extent at all. I mean, one of the characters straight up calls him out. I was like, oh, I thought you were a formidable opponent, but really, you're pretty weak. And I had to concur, which is a big shame because Vision is supposed to be very powerful, and here not so much. So while he, as a being, was heavily important because of the Infinity Stone, he as a character was basically just something to protect at all times, something to watch, something to drag along with you. Almost felt like dead weight for the majority of the movie. And honestly, if it were up to him, they would have had that stone pretty early on in the film. He was ready to just give up and die and let Scarlet Witch leave. So that's why Vision is all the way down at number 10 for me. At number 9, I have Black Panther. T'Challa is another character, like everybody in Wakanda basically, that I wish I could put even higher on this list, that I was hoping to get more of in particular. And I loved all of the scenes within Wakanda. Of course he has the big line of "get this man a shield." But what T'Challa really brings to this film is Wakanda, is being able to bring all of Wakanda together, inspiring them, yelling that Wakanda forever, putting all differences aside to make sure that Wakanda had a front for battle. Not to mention, they were in his home country, his native land, and he had that shield up. And that Wakandan technology really, really aided their battle attempts at the end of this film for that ending battle. Plus, of course, with his kinetic energy bursts that he's able to do, you saw that little purple explosions throughout the battlefield. Unfortunately, we don't get a whole lot with him one-on-one, But what he contributes is hard to translate just through him as one individual. But really, you have to credit a lot of what happens on that final battle to T'Challa and his leadership. At number 8, I have Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk. So the Hulk doesn't really actually make much of an appearance here. He's in one scene and kind of sort of pops up a couple other times. But his one scene is very, very useful because it shows how powerful Thanos is. Of course, it's fun and it sets up him not wanting to come out later in the film. But it's really there to show just how formidable Thanos was with just one stone. Nevertheless, all of them. But from there, Bruce himself is very helpful. He pretty much assembles the entire team. So he's the one that gets taken back down to Earth, alerts everyone, but in particular Doctor Strange, then takes Doctor Strange to Tony Stark to get Tony Stark, and then when they're unable to get a hold of Captain America because the phone is dropped, he's the one who assembles Captain America and gets him on board. Throughout the film, he kind of is setting all of these different parts in motion. He's the one who kind of assembles the Avengers for this film in particular. Plus, even without his powers, it was kind of fun seeing him in the Hulkbuster, although some of that CGI though. Woo! His little parts battling with Hulk were kind of fun, kind of funny, added a little extra dimension, so he gets up to number 8. At number 7, I have Gamora. I actually loved Gamora's story in this film. We get backstory, which I was so happy to see, and seeing her really struggle within herself of like having this kind of Stockholm syndrome was really powerful, and I really give credit to Zoe Saldana for selling it, especially that scene where she cries after thinking she killed Thanos. It was a really, really powerful, impactful scene. And as just a straight up character, without all of the other things added in, she definitely would be top 3 for me. I really thought she was a highlight to the film. But what drags Gamora down is the fact that she does something stupid that really hinders the mission of the Avengers. And honestly, she basically cripples the mission, if we're being honest. She sets into motion the turning point of everything, and that is giving up the Soul Stone. And it's particularly frustrating because she literally had Peter Quill promise to kill her rather than be captured. So for her then to immediately turn around and give up the universe like that after like 5 seconds of her sister being tortured, it was just nonsensical to a really high level, because that was the one stone he couldn't get. And then from there as well, we find out that Nebula can escape her torture. And so I guess Gamora really could have taken him anywhere. I mean, there was no way for her to know that necessarily, but she could have just lied and took him to some random place and, I don't know, tried to kill him there. He wasn't going to kill her. I mean, yeah, I don't know. And then also for her not to really realize why he was crying was a little bit, and for her not to do something quicker than how she reacted also was a little bit of a negative. But again, I loved her development, and as a character, I thought she was fantastic. She just, gave up the hardest stone for Thanos to achieve, and she gave it up quick. At number 6, I have Captain America. So Steve Rogers, good old Cap, doesn't really do much in this film, if we're being honest. He's part of the crew that saves Vision the first time round, and he's part of the battles. Of course, he's the leader of the Avengers. He gets some good punches in. He shows what mankind can do to Thanos by holding onto that glove, the gauntlet at the end. But, Cap doesn't really do all that much if you think about his contributions to this film. I think he is very useful in that final fight, but yeah, he doesn't really do much else. I think he is the main force that saves Vision and tracking Vision down. That's why he made it this high. But that was pretty much it. What else did Cap do running around? At number 5, I have Scarlet Witch. So Scarlet Witch was frustrating because I just wanted to see more of her powers. I wanted to see her finally realize her powers to their fullest degree. And that first battle was a little bit frustrating because she was just constantly on the run instead of taking those two head on. And she could have put up a real fight and possibly taken them down by herself if she had just gone into attack mode rather than run, defense, all the time mode. However, she constantly is saving Vision. And much like Peter Quill earlier, she does what she has to do to save the universe. And she makes that tough decision, and she puts her powers to their fullest use. She actually even holds Thanos off with her other hand for the time she needed to. And she accomplishes the mission of destroying the stone. It's unfortunate that we go back in time, but she does what she needed to do, and she makes that hard decision. She also saves the entire battlefield. Unfortunately, that allows them to get to Vision, but she saves everybody. Plus, I thought her character got quite a bit of development. I thought she had a nice storyline. It was a really emotionally impactful one. So there you go. That's why Scarlet Witch is all the way up at number 5 for me. At number 4, I have Spider-Man. So to start, Spider-Man kind of is just in the way. He doesn't really do much in that opening battle, and he jumps on a ship that he really shouldn't be a part of. But from there, Spider-Man actually is very useful throughout the rest of the film. First, he pretty much saves Doctor Strange. It's his idea that saves Doctor Strange in the end. Plus, I loved his little one-on-one banter with Doctor Strange there, with Tony, and then later on with Star-Lord, as well as Doctor Strange's cape. It all just worked really well, and I found him to be a delight. Then, when we are actually on Titan, he's a big reason we're this close from getting that gauntlet off of Thanos' hand. Unfortunately, we know why that doesn't work out. And then later on Titan, he pretty much single-handedly saves everybody else. They're all knocked out, incapacitated, floating into space, and he's just webbing them all and just sticking them to whatever he can on the planet, saving them. So, Spider-Man does a whole lot of good. Plus, has a lot of funny banter. But what seals the deal is, out of all of the end death scenes, out of all of those vanishing moments at the end of the film, his was the only one that made the moment even a little bit sad to me. Because while I know he's coming back, and while I know his death won't even last an entire film, he sold it. Tom Holland killed it. And he just crushed that scene. It was one of the best acted scenes in the entire film. It was the only one with emotion and with some substance in that final moment. So kudos to you, Tom Holland. The writing was good. And really, Spider-Man was just a very good character in the film. At number 3, I have Doctor Strange. So Doctor Strange is here just because of how awesome he is. I'm not gonna lie. He was awesome in this movie. First of all, how he was keeping up at the beginning with the Dark Order was fantastic. Just going through all of his power sets were working to their fullest ability. Plus, his spell was keeping them all out. There was no way they were getting to that time stone if he did not want them to get to that time stone. So, really, he had the power to prevent everything if need be. Then we get his banter with Tony, which is fantastic. I loved them together, and they gave us some of the greatest moments in the film. And then, seeing his powers on display versus Thanos was everything. Him pushing the cubicle dimensions in there, him able to throw all of these things at Thanos throughout, and then I loved the moment where he multiplied. Of course, we all know that doesn't work out either, but it was a really just awesome sequence, and one of the best parts of that fight on Titan to me personally. But what really made Doctor Strange valuable, other than just being awesome and really showing off his powers, was his ability to go forward in time and see all of the different possible outcomes. And being able to pick the path he picked, no matter how hard it was, or what it may have looked like, made him look contradictory to himself. But clearly, he had to make this choice, and he did. That makes him a very strong character, but also makes him, obviously, essential moving forward. At number 2, I have Iron Man. Tony Stark was really great in this film. As we just mentioned, he had a ton of great banter with Doctor Strange. He had some good banter with the Guardians. Some great moments with Spider-Man that really rang true throughout the entire film, really. And it was great to see where Tony was at in this film. And his death scene, what probably should have been his death scene in that battle with Thanos was amazing. It was a beautiful, amazing moment for his character. It showed such growth for his character and such nobility. It was fantastic. Plus, he got blood. He's one of the only characters to really land a hit on Thanos, and he threw everything he had at Thanos and really was giving him some, if we're being real. And while it might have been Spider-Man's idea, he was the one who was able to execute killing the main henchman for Thanos and saving Doctor Strange. He saved Peter's life. He saved Spider-Man's life with his suit and gave him that spider suit. And he was right there. He was this close to saving the universe and getting that gauntlet off. But really, I think it was just seeing the growth and maturity in his character and how far his character has come, on top of all the awesomeness, that really elevated Iron Man up to number 2 in my book. And then number 1, was it really even in question? It was Thor. I mean, he was the MVP, the highlight of the entire film for me, over and over again. First of all, he has the best scene in the entire film. The most cheer-worthy, awesome, crazy, badass, amazing scene in this film, and one of the best scenes the MCU has had. When he makes his entrance into Wakanda, it is amazing. It's just so good. The lightning coming out of the eyes, his power fully realized yet again. It is amazing. And just watching him rip up those ships and rip up that battlefield, fantastic. It was this close. If only it hit Thanos here, he would have ended it all. But him able to break through Thanos' powers, using the gauntlet, he broke straight through that beam with his new axe. It was awesome. And landed it right in that chest. Great moment. Plus, I loved him calling Rocket Raccoon a rabbit throughout. I loved his interactions with Star-Lord while on their ship. And as I mentioned before, I love that emotional moment we got with him. That real reflective moment of what he's been through over the last 2 films we've seen him in. But what really did it for me is the fact that he's pretty much the only character who has an arc in this entire film. To a point, Gamora does. Some could argue Thanos does. And I would agree that Thanos is the main character of this film. It is his film, but he doesn't grow at all as a character. He pretty much stays stagnant. He keeps the same mission and he moves forward. Thor grows so much in this movie, and he is the only one with that complete arc from beginning to end. Although we don't get to the end point of the story overall and his mission isn't quite accomplished, he still sees that full character arc. And you're rooting for him, you're cheering for him. His entire race pretty much has been obliterated. His entire family is dead. They're all gone. Every one of them. We see him get his eye back. We see him have full redemption on that star with that amazing moment of just swinging that ship and just holding that gate open so the star's power can be harnessed to create his axe. It all is just amazing. He has tons of amazing moments throughout the entirety of the film. And that's why Thor really, to me, is the undisputed #1 hero of the film when it comes to Avengers Infinity War. So that is my ranking of all of the heroes that made somewhat of an impact in Avengers Infinity War. What did you think of how I ranked these heroes, and what would your personal ranking look like? Make sure you leave that in the comment section down below, or of course you can hit me up on Twitter. Also, if you liked this video and liked this concept, hit that like button down below and make sure to subscribe so you are always up to date on our latest videos. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!